Since the dawn of time, man has been curious. And for almost as long, the Vibes Broadcast Network has sought the truth. Investigate, discuss, explore. Okay, maybe in other episodes, but this one is just listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I have here Miss Christine Meyer. And if you caught the last interview, we talked about empowerment and bringing up your vibrations and just trying to manifest things in a positive way. We're going to get into another category she's in, which is relationships, and hopefully touch on a few things that can help folks. So I'm going to let you kick off the conversation and tell us a little bit about what you do as far as helping people with relationships.
Well, I'm always helping people with relationships, really, because every individual has a relationship with everything that they think about. And typically we don't think of relationships in that way, but I certainly do. So everything that you think about, you have a relationship with, and how so might be the question that comes after that. And that's all about your point of attraction. That's all about your frequency. That's all about your output. And what that means is whatever your output is what you get matched with. And so any subject that you think about and the relationship that you have to it has everything to do with how you think about it and how you feel about it.
Okay, we're talking more than just romantic relationships, family relationships, friend relationships, even relationships, I guess you say, with the things that you own.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I'm saying. The things that you own, the things that you care about, the things that you don't care about, the things that you think about. That could be your socks. That could be certainly your work, your career, your money, your health, your body. Anything that you think about, you do have a relationship to it, because once you start thinking about it, you set up a point of attraction with it. So we have relationships with all kinds of people and things that we wouldn't naturally or normally consider that we have relationships with.
One thing I see that seems to be a toxic relationship, it's either the lack of or having too much money or materialistic things. If that seems to be the focus, or your only focus, that throws everything else out of kilter, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, say that that's all you seem to be focused on is you want to make money, and you want to keep up with the Joneses. Well, it's, to me, and I've seen this happen so many times, it hurts relationships with your significant other or even your children or other family members, because that's their only goal is I gotta get.
Well, I think that there are different ways to think about that, certainly. And money in and of itself, the pursuit of money, is not toxic, is not harmful, is not evil. It really is about how, in this case, since you're bringing it up, how you think about money and what your relationship is to money and what you think money means in their pursuit. Because many people can desire, and probably many people that are listening in and would be listening in here, desire money. Money is a necessity, really, in the culture, in the culture that we live in. So if you, this is a strong word, but demonize people with money, and you want more money, for instance.
I see that a lot.
Right? You are contradicting yourself. You're not allowing more money in. Your point of attraction, in this case, your relationship to money, is not based on what you want. It's based on what you're pushing against. You're not in a position to be allowing more money to come to you when you're talking crap about people who have money, or
Right.
making assumptions about people who have money or are in the pursuit of money. So as you consider what you've observed, you can also ask yourself, what are my beliefs? Because I'm always going to be seeing and attracting what I believe. So if I believe that relationships are ruined because of the pursuit of money, I will find evidence to quantify that belief, to affirm that belief for myself. What would I rather believe? Well, money is actually a neutral thing. Money is, it's just money. It's what I make it mean and what other people make it mean that actually assigns something to it. And I get to assign whatever meaning or significance that I want. So how about I take my nose out of other people's business, whatever it is. If they want money, then let them have the money and pursue the money and do whatever with the money. And in fact, their pursuit of money or their seeking of money will play out in such a way that it matches perfectly to what their beliefs are. So is that really any of my business? Yeah, some people have definitely created things with money that none of us want, that most of us don't want or consider immoral, if you will. And others have created plenty of good stuff with money and do a lot of good with money. And really, again, even that is whether you do good or you don't do good, whose business is it what you do with your money?
True.
Whose business is it? Whatever it is, whose business is it whatever you do with whatever you have? So really the point that I want to keep bringing across here is that the important part is that you have a relationship to those things that you think about. And in this case, you were thinking about money and people with money and the pursuit of money and seeking money. And if that thought feels resistant in nature, if you're kind of pushing against those people and establishing a belief for yourself that says, that's not good, that's not good, that's not good, they're bad, they ruin things, blah, 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 you've got to ask yourself, how is that serving me?
No, sure. Well, I'm not so much saying that that's wrong. I'm just, it's like when it becomes an obsession and you're willing to do anything. Take, for example, we just watched a series on Netflix this weekend. This girl, lied about who she was. And I mean, she did all these bad things in order to get all this money and all this stuff. When that becomes an obsession and you don't have an equal balance when it comes to that and your family, other relationships, so it seems to me there needs to be a balance.
Well, balance for sure is a lovely thing to achieve in anyone's life. And to make assumptions based on observations of someone else's life is really difficult because you don't know what's going on with their relationship to those things that they are attracting. So it really is, when you watch a show or documentary or anyone out there, it really is best to say, interesting, is that what I want or not? No, then yes, great. Then you go about finding ways to create that for yourself and feel that for yourself and invite that for yourself and become a frequency match to that, meaning feel how you would feel if you had it already. And if it's something that you've observed that you don't want any business or part of, then you decide that's their creation, not mine. I get to have, in this case, since we are talking about the relationship to money, I get to have my relationship with money in the way that I design it to be, which can be, again, this would be your personal desire, let's say, which can be healthy. I have a healthy relationship to money. I have an abundant relationship to money. I have a relationship to money that feels like ease and flow and fun and moral and based on the values and the things that are my priorities. And I have a balanced relationship with money. There's no angst around money. There's no, so you get to create it however you want to, and observing someone else having an experience that you wouldn't choose for yourself, you don't want for yourself, can clarify for you what you do want, but let them do them and you do you.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not worried about what other people do with their money.
Yeah.
just
But these are prime examples of what we think about and what we observe out in the world that does affect and perhaps indicate to us, are clues to us where we stand on a particular subject and how much we're getting into someone else's business when it's not required, when we are each individually the creators of our own reality, and we feel like things are asserted onto us, we feel like things are done to us, we feel like if someone has money, that takes money from me, if someone uses money in a way that I don't agree with, I need to have an opinion about that, about what they're doing. And I say, have an opinion about that for yourself and decide what
yeah.
you want to do. Decide what you want to do with your money. Let them do them. As
Oh,
you
yeah.
criticize money or criticize what anyone else is doing, and if it's something that you want, again, most people want more money. No
I
matter
know
who you
I
are,
do.
you want more money. If you're criticizing someone who has money, you're blocking the money that wants to come to you. So it always comes to managing that relationship between you and your subject, you and that desire, you and what you think about, and finding a way to think about it in as many ways as possible that feel as good to you as possible, and in as many moments as possible.
Right. And I by no means don't sound like I'm on a soapbox here, but you're right. A lot of people, they look at everybody else, complain about what everybody else is doing, but they don't have everything right in their own home or in their own life. So how are they going to judge me when they're not even looking at themselves? You know what I mean? And look, I'm going to get off of that. I could go down a rabbit hole with that one, but this is something very important. Getting your own affairs in order. Is this something that you help people to do?
Yeah, 100% of the time, it's always about you and your relationship with whatever you think about. So it's about understanding it in different, taking foundations that you have a soul, your emotions are important, and everything comes from you, not at you. You create your reality. It's not being done for you. And from those three premises, those three foundations, then we start building blocks. It's kind of like establishing a really strong foundation on a house and then starting to put up the 2x4s or the 2x6s and whatever else. So yes, my work with clients is always about how are you relating to that? How are you thinking about it? And is that really how you want to continue thinking about that and feeling about that? And if not, then let's start building bridges. Let's start looking at different ways to perceive that from those three foundations. Because if you don't have those three foundations down, if you don't understand that you have a soul that's always relating to you, and that's the primary relationship that I would always suggest that everyone cultivates and masters, really, and makes the most important out of anything, above the relationship with your wife, let's say. I do always recommend to my clients to make that relationship between them and their soul priority. Because if you're not aligned there, if you're not in harmony there, you've got very little to offer to anyone else that you're relating to. And when you're tending to that, then you're more likely to see and filter the subjects that you care about in a way that is most advantageous to you, meaning it feels best to you. And that's so as you understand that relationship, and then you understand that you're having emotional responses to all kinds of things that you're thinking about every day, all day long. Most people are oblivious to the emotional responses that they're having during the day, or are so used to them, they've become normalized to them. So they're used to feeling angry or irritated or impatient or whatever else they might be feeling. And so it's normal. So they don't realize that they're having a resistant emotional response to that and to that and to that and to that and to that as they think about it. So they're kind of like going through life and blocking everything that they want with that perspective, with that mood and attitude. So it's important to start understanding that you are having emotional responses all day, every day about the things that you think about. And that's important because it lets you know what you're doing with that primary relationship between you and you. If you're feeling bad, you are not in harmony with your soul in this moment. And so there's a perspective shift that could occur for you, that you've expanded, you've become more, you have a desire, and you're pointed in opposition to it in that moment. And if you're feeling good, you are more in harmony and more of a cooperative player in the game of the life that you want to design. So those two things. And then the third thing is that you are always attracting. You're always in the process of attracting. And what you think and feel, what you think is the frequency that attracts. What you feel is the indicator of what you're in the process of attracting, what you're in the process of creating. So you have indicators along the way of what you're doing with those relationships, not only to your soul, but to those things that you're thinking about. And as you understand and filter that information through there, then you can start understanding and applying those foundations to help you shift and become more of a match to what you do want. Therefore, your life becomes more delightful and fun. You feel better. And what else is life? The game of life is not to be miserable and have hard knocks and struggle. It really is about establishing those relationships to those subjects in a way that feels the best to you, in a way that filters out the noise and includes more clarity, includes more and better feeling perspectives. And it's not just about positive words, it's about feeling differently.
Yeah, I understand from you and from other people that I've talked to is to remember that feeling of, that good feeling that you get from certain things. Somebody actually sat here and made me try to describe as best as I could what certain things that I did made me feel. Say, like when I've went and looked at a home and I really liked the place, and that feeling that I got when I walked in the door and looked at everything, and to try to capture that moment and hold it in. And then when I wanted to manifest these things, to remember that feeling. And
We talked about some of that last
yeah,
time
I
I was
believe we
on as
did. I
well.
believe we did.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds a little woo-woo. I get it. And it can feel hard to put into practice. And again, the reason why that's important to understand is simply because it gives you some context. A lot of people are living their lives and not understanding why things are coming to them. A lot of people are really blundering through life, and I don't mean that as an insult, just blundering through life, sort of putting one foot in front of the other and bumping into things along the way and thinking that those things are random. And I want to say nothing is random. You've had indicators along the way of what you're doing with your point of attraction. You can't escape your point of attraction. When you're awake, your point of attraction is active. When you're asleep, it's definitely more dormant unless you're actively thinking during your sleep state. But every moment that you're awake, you are in the process of attracting something. So isn't it really, 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 wouldn't it be really helpful? I wanted to say important, but important and helpful. If important doesn't matter to you, then helpful, because to understand that you create your reality through your thoughts, through your perspectives, through your moods and attitudes, and everything that you think about, you are having responses to. And if you're having a negative emotional response, there's some resistance happening in the mix, and there's perhaps a false premise that's happening for you, perhaps a perspective that is definitely not serving you in that moment, not in the sense of aligning you with what you want. Instead, you can understand that you're in opposition to what you want. It's like you're asking for something and you're just putting up a big wall and you're saying, no, don't, I'm not going to let it in. Not going to let it in. Somebody's knocking at the door and I'm not letting you in. I asked you over for dinner and I'm not letting you in. It's kind of like that and if you don't understand what your emotions are doing for you, and if you don't understand that your thoughts create, if you don't understand that you can actually change how you feel and change a perspective, then you will feel like life is random. If you don't start associating what was I thinking and how was I feeling and what was the result. If you don't start making those associations, then you will feel like life is out of control and it's random and you're powerless. You can't do anything about it. So relationships in that sense are extremely important to understand. Your relationship with your soul, your relationship to the creations, and then translating that into relationships with others and what you attract from others.
The one thing that I've observed from some people in my life, that as much as we want to, we can't make them feel and think things that we think that they should. I see that these folks have something special about them, but they don't feel it, they don't see it, and they're so afraid of being alone that they'll just take any relationship that comes along. And how do you get someone out of that mindset?
Well, you don't get them out of the mindset or that creation by looking at them and seeing where they are. What I mean by that is, if you look at them and think, I think what you're creating is not good for you. You're so much better than this. You could do better. If only you could see something different, if only you could believe that you were awesome. What you're doing in that process is you're pointed at also at the opposite end of the stick of what they want. You're looking at where they are and coming to a conclusion about them, about where they are. Probably one of the hardest things to do is to be aware of where they are, but not be feeling negative emotion, not be feeling drawn into the drama that they're currently creating, not being drawn into their current temporary story, and take from that their current situation and say, all right, what could this be causing this person to want? Clearly, this person perhaps is lonely, right? You mentioned that, lonely. Therefore, this person wants love. This person wants friendship. This person wants friends and people around them. This person wants to feel love. This person wants to have fun conversation. This person, what else could this person be wanting as a result of what I'm observing here? So you have to then, again, this is your relationship with you. Your soul is not looking at that person and feeling sorry for them or bad for them or thinking that they're in the wrong place. All your soul sees there is, this is so good for you. This is helping you get clear on what you want. This is clarifying your desires. You might not even be close to having what you want, but this is all benefiting you, and you can have what you want. And we're so proud of you. We're so happy for you to be right where you are, because right where you are is the next step to where you want to go. So did that make sense?
It does.
You can't look at someone and feel bad for them and be of any value to them. So you've got to get yourself in balance now. You've got to find your balance and feel better before you're of any value to them at all. If you go to them and you feel bad, you're joining them and you're contributing to the problem in that sense.
Well, the hardest part is, I guess, letting go and allowing them to make the mistakes or the choices that they want to make. When you see an accident about to happen, your reaction is you want to do what you can to prevent that accident. Unfortunately, you can't always do that.
And there's value in letting people figure things out for themselves, isn't there? Isn't most learning, true learning, acquired through your own experience? I remember when I was growing up, my parents said things to me. I don't remember those specific things now, but they would say things to me. They had the eyes to see, they had the experience to see whatever, and they offered their wisdom from their place. But I decided, no, perhaps in some situations said, you don't know anything. I want to figure it out for myself. And that, again, I think we're all born with that independent desire to figure things out for ourselves, and we all have our own guidance. And so the illusion that my guidance is better than your guidance, when I don't have the relationship with your soul in terms of that relativity, I've only got the relativity relationship between me and my soul. I don't have it between you and your soul. I can't tell where you are relative to your own desires. All I can know is where I am relative to my own desires, even if they're about you. So I've got to write that relationship. If my desires for you are to have a really good, healthy, thriving, abundant life, and I see you suffering, and I feel bad for you, then I'm not tending. I've got an indicator there that I have just cut myself off at the knees, metaphorically speaking, in my relationship to my own soul. My soul is not seeing you suffer. My soul is not considering this a mistake. And I wanted to interject when you said a mistake. What are mistakes? Isn't doing something and figuring out that it maybe you could do it differently or do it better, or that you want something different, is that a mistake, or is that just information? Is that discovery? Is that more experience to understand who you are and what you want from here?
Yeah. It's just very difficult, especially someone like me. I have children, and I'm trying to, I want them to experience life. But when you see something that could be detrimental to them, you want to protect them.
Of course you do.
It's so very hard to not want to do that as a parent. And although especially when they're older, you have to let them go because they're adults. But yeah, I told my daughter one day, she said, "Why are you always worried about me? And I'm grown up." And I'm like, well, I'm 50 something years old, and my mom's in her 70s, but I'm still her little boy. And she always will still want to protect me and make sure I don't get hurt. Well, once again, it'll be just like this kid going to touch a hot stove. I mean, you don't want them to get burned, but sometimes you have to just let them learn on their own, I guess.
Yeah, and it's trusting yourself. It's trusting that as you have guidance, and because you have guidance, so do they. Even the little ones coming in have their own guidance. Now, of course, there's this sense that they're very dependent on you, and you're going to feed them and you're going to guide them. But there's also that balance that you have to strike within yourself of, if you worry about someone, you're projecting worry. And guess what? You're going to attract things to worry about. So you've got to remember that, what am I projecting outward and therefore attracting from those people? Because as I stop worrying, as I stop worrying so much about you, as I remind myself that you have a soul, you have guidance, you have your own harmony, you have your own relationship there, you've got your own desires, I've got my own desires, and my biggest job really is to tend to my own relationship between me and my soul, and to worry less about you. Worry does not equal love. It just doesn't. Concern about someone does not equal love. People have interpreted that to mean, if you don't worry about me, you must not love me. And that your soul loves you so much and yet never worries about you. And so what I'm inviting people to do here is to reevaluate that relationship between themselves and also relative to others, because worry does not equal love. They're two vibrationally very different frequencies. If you're worrying, you're on the lower end of that frequency. If you're loving, you're on the upper end of that frequency, and the two don't go together. You can't love and worry at the same time. You can worry in one moment and love in another, but you can't do both at the same time. And so when you worry about anything, again, relationship to any subject that you think about, if the vibration, if the frequency is worry, there are likely many subjects that you worry about. That could be your kids, that could be your toe, that could be the weather, that could be the squirrel that just ran up the, who knows, anything. But your vibration, your frequency output is worry. And so as you do that, again, you're attracting more things to worry about. And it's hard to get off that train once you're on it and you've been on it. So you've got to find a way to decide, listen, does your worry ever help anyone?
Not really. I mean, they say, what is it, 80 something or 90% of what you worry about doesn't come to pass.
It's using your imagination to create undesired outcomes is really what it's doing. So why would you do that?
That's true.
Why would you do that? Again, sometimes you can't help but worry, because the thing is that you care. So typically the things that you worry about are the things that you care about.
And the hardest thing to do is to fight something that seems like it's part of your nature.
Well, that's not it. It's just the same stick. You care a lot, there's the potential to worry a lot.
Yeah.
You just care a lot. So if you understand that because you care a lot, you could also worry a lot. Now it's your job to understand whether you're doing more worrying than feeling love, more worrying than feeling appreciation, more worrying than feeling positive expectation and encouragement and excitement and so on. So worry does not get you what you want. Worry does not even prevent what you don't want. Worry is a negative inclusion of vibration that has no benefit to you whatsoever. None. And if anybody listening has labeled themselves as a worrier, it takes some time to get off the worry train. But as you incrementally continue to remind yourself that worry does nothing for anyone, how would I rather feel? Worry does nothing for anyone. How would I rather feel? Worry does nothing for it. And you might have to repeat that 1,000 times today and another 1,000 tomorrow and the next day and the next day. But as you consciously decide and recognize that I'm worrying right now and it has no value, none whatsoever. What would I rather feel for this person? Or what would I rather feel about this situation? Or what can I worry a little less? I'm gonna try worrying a little less, or I'm gonna try being happier a little more. However way you slice it, you've got to find a way to understand and make that conscious choice of, okay, worry is a thing of the past for me to the best of my ability moving forward. I'm going to worry less. And when I recognize that I am worrying, I'm going to remind myself, this is an indicator to me that I'm focused on something or someone in such a way that is not really helpful to them or to me. And my soul has a completely different perspective right now, happening right now. And that is why I'm feeling worried, because I'm opposing that true frequency that I could be also feeling and owning.
Boils down to, if you really want to improve your life, you have to work on it. This is a constant thing. It's not going to happen overnight, but there has to be something that you can tell yourself that can put you in the right direction, but you're going to work on it every day.
Well, you're always thinking, I mean, if we were to figure it out, how many things have you thought about in the last 6 hours of today? And how many things do you think about in the span of 10 seconds?
Oh.
So we all think about many things, whether we are conscious of it or not, aware of it or not, and we are all having feeling responses to that focus, that
Right.
point of focus. And so working on it would look like, I want to feel as good as I can about as many things as I can today. That's working on it. And then being aware, paying attention to how you feel. And when you feel good, you notice it. And when you feel not so good, you notice it and you decide, is this how I want to keep feeling? And many of us feel like we don't have any control over that. And I want to say we have way more control over that than we think we do. We think that we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We think that it's mostly about the conditions outside of us that are controlling how we feel. My daughter is blah, 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 blah. I'm worried about her and that is making me feel. Or my work isn't going so well and I'm irritated or frustrated and that is making me feel. And we all have responses to conditions. We all have emotional feelings to conditions. That's part of our human design of observing and living and being in these places. Sorry, my dogs are barking.
That's okay.
So, and I can't run out on you and go make them be quiet. So that's Tucker, by the way. So we have to incrementally start understanding that we have the power to affect how we feel regardless of the condition. And that, again, I'm bringing it back to that relationship between me and me. If I don't feel good, if I'm feeling bad about something, that is an indicator to me, first and foremost, not that the condition is bad, not that it's wrong, not that anything is going wrong over there that I'm identifying as going wrong, but in fact that I have a perspective that is disconnecting me. You're never disconnected, but feels disconnected from my soul. And that's what I need to work on right now. Not trying to figure out how to fix it, not trying to figure out what to tell somebody, not trying to figure out what's going to happen 10 years from now? None of that. All of that is pointless, really, when I'm feeling like this. So I must first tend to my relationship and find a way to feel better or feel some relief of some kind before I can ever address any of the other things. And if most people have a habit of vibration, habitual frequency. So I'm sure you've met people who you could say, oh, that person, if I were to ask you, what's that person like? You'd say, well, that's a happy person, or that's a positive person, or that's a real downer over there, or that guy's always grumpy, or that lady's always grumpy, or. And so most people have a pattern of frequency. And so it's easy to observe in other people, isn't it? It's like, oh, whatever, or, oh, I really like that person. That's a really upbeat person. So it's quite easy to identify in other people what their habits might be in terms of how they feel. What feels more challenging is identifying how you feel and actually owning it and being true about it, because no one really wants to say, yeah, I'm generally irritated.
Sure.
But that's a big clue. So, all right, so if you're generally irritated, if you're generally frustrated, then what's happening in your life? Is this coming into place? Is this coming into place? What's happening? Do things feel a little slow in coming? Does it take longer than you want it to for things to come around? Is this person not returning your calls? Is this person never returning your calls? Whatever. If you started to look around, you might see a pattern there. And guess what? That's because of that frequency, that point of attraction that you are generally, habitually, and probably obliviously maintaining, because you get up tomorrow morning and you think basically the same thoughts that you thought yesterday. Mm-hmm. And then you proceed on that train, and now you're on the frustration train, the irritation train, because you're so used to it, you've gotten used to it, you're kind of this is just how I feel every day. And then you come to the conclusion that this is what life is. This is how I'm supposed to feel. When, you know what? Everyone has the ability to feel joyful every day. Most of us don't experience that, but everyone has the ability to. The reason why we don't is because we keep picking up garbage and putting it on our train. Every single morning we pick up that garbage and we put it back on our train. I went to sleep with it. I'm going to pick it up in the morning. And to our credit, or to leave us off the hook, law of attraction helps you think what you thought. It's way easier to think a thought that you've been thinking than it is to try and access a different thought, a better feeling thought. So that's what's at play here, but it's doable, and it takes consistency. It takes the consistent, I'm going to say effort. It shouldn't feel hard, but it will feel a little hard. If you're used to being irritated, feeling irritated, and you're asking yourself to think about something in a way that you've always looked at it and felt about it in a different way, it's going to feel really hard, because it's going to look like truth and evidence to you, because this is how it is. This is how it is. And so you've got to be able to find it within you to reach for, how would I rather feel? What would feel better? What can I easily feel good about? My dogs. Okay, great then, except for when they're barking. My dogs, when I think about my dog or my dogs, I'm happy and I feel love, and I feel that first thing I think about when I think about my dog is unconditional love, and I think about acceptance, and then I would say to you, then think about your dog as much of the day as you can. Yeah, but that's not important stuff. I'm not solving the world problems, and I'm not solving my daughter's problems or my son's problems or my wife's problems or my blah, 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 blahs. And I would say, exactly. If you don't focus on the problems, you allow your relationship, you allow yourself to now purposely and intentionally and deliberately manage that relationship between you, and thinking about your dog might be the easiest way to do it.
This is probably the wrong way to look at it, but it's that easy and that hard all at the same time.
It's that simple. It's that simple, perhaps not that easy. Right, but the more you do it, right, like anything, drag your ass into the gym, it feels hard probably the first month, the first 2 months, the first 3 months, whatever. If you do something that you've never done before, it doesn't always come easily.
Right.
But I want to make sure that this doesn't come across that it shouldn't feel hard, but it might feel a little bit like effort because it's not what you're used to doing. It's going to require more focus from you, is really what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the more, like anything, the more you sit down at your keyboard on your computer and type away with your little fingers, the easier it gets to kind of know where those keys are. But when you first started to do that, it didn't feel all that easy and you were really slow at it, and it felt a lot like blundering through it. But it's like anything. It's like anything. The more you do it, the more you make an attempt, the more you apply it, the more you practice it, the easier it does become. Again, just like going to the gym, you first picked up a 5-pounder or 50-pounder and whatever dumbbell, and that felt heavy. But the more you did it, the stronger you got, the easier it got, the better your form got. Didn't happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight in terms of your outside world reflecting your inside world, but your outside world will always show you what you're doing with the inside world. And the inside world is where you have to start, is where you have to manage, is where you have to decide that I am in charge. I am the thinker, I am the feeler, I am the perceiver. I'm in charge of my world.
It's the effort, and once you get into the habit of it, it does get easier as you go along. I work on myself every day. I'm not perfect by any means. I fall, and I'm fortunate enough to know people like you that I get a little bit from everyone that I talk to, and it helps. It really does. You just strive to be a better person. That's all I can ask for.
I think also something important to convey to your listeners is that no one's broken. No one needs fixing. No one needs to be quote unquote a better person. But can you feel better?
Right. I get what you're saying.
Do you want your experience of life to feel better? Would you like to be happier? Would you like to feel better in your experiences? Would you like to feel optimistic? Would you like to feel blessed or lucky? Or again, I'm not at all saying that there's any luck in this, because it's all your creation, but you could feel
personal responsibility.
Feeling. Yeah. And so I never want anyone listening in to think that they're broken, they need fixing, and that they need to become better people for what. But we all have desires we all want to feel good, whether we would admit that or not. We all do want to feel good. And when we don't, we know something is off, period. Right. We might not understand what's off, and we might not know why that feels off. But our true nature is not to be grumpy. Our true nature is to be joyful beings. Our practiced nature is to be cranky.
No, that's right. Well, I feel like I could talk to you for another hour, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So real quick, how can people find you and maybe hire you for your services?
Yeah, well, I'm across the board on my website is ChristineMeyerCoaching.com. Instagram, I'm Christine Meyer Coaching. LinkedIn, same thing. Facebook, same thing. So very easy to find, kept it simple. And everything's on my website that you need to know. And I wrote a book, and it's called Keep It Simple Smarty Pants. And you can find my book on Amazon, or a free download, I think of 12 pages. I think all Amazon would let me do is on my website as well.
Well, I will put all that in the description. And I thank you for giving me your time again. I really appreciate it, and hope we can do this again in the future.
You bet. As always, such fun.
Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. All my regulars, thank you. I appreciate your support. Spread the word around, and everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless, and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network